How do you pronounce your last name?
Inoue.
Inoue.
Yeah, so I'm related. My ex-husband is Egan Inoue. Do you know Egan and Ensign?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was married to Egan for 4 years, and I kept his name.
What?
Yeah.
No, so I had Ensign on the show before.
Oh,
too.
Ensign, he's great. He's my ex-brother-in-law. We're all very close still. Very good friends.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Welcome back, guys, to the Kampai Sugai podcast. I know it's been a while. I know the space has been revamped a little bit. Well, it looks the same, but I had to get a few parts. We had some issues with like flooding and stuff like that, but we're back, which is fine. And I have a great guest for you guys today. She's an author of 9 books, and she's an award-winning author, founder of Happiness You. And she has a new show coming out called Following Journeys, which I read a little bit of the bio of it, and it's such an interesting concept. I can't wait to actually see and check it out. So anyways, I have professional astrologer with me, Allison Inoue.
Yes. Hello. Thank you
for
so
coming
much,
on.
Jay.
Yeah.
Super happy to be here.
So one thing that's just blew my mind, right? You're actually... You have relations with the Inoue family,
yes.
so Egan and
yes.
Inoue, which is crazy.
Yes.
And you did martial arts before.
Yes. I was married to Egan a long time ago for 4 years and was very close. And we still continue to be close today, him and Ensign. But because of Egan, I got into all the martial arts. Yes.
Oh, that I don't know why. That just blew my mind. It was so crazy. I'm a big MMA fan. So.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So you keep up still with like
I do.
UFC and
It's
stuff?
still interesting to me, even though I don't physically fight anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
You ever had any like MMA fighters come in and you did sessions with them for astrology?
I did not. I was not into astrology at that time, so never had the opportunity. But I guarantee you, anybody who has a fighter has strong Mars energy, and Mars is testosterone. Mars is the fighting spirit. So it would be very unlikely for anyone who's a fighter not to have some kind of like Mars or Aries energy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking upon how you got started, tell us how your journey through astrology, like how you got started, how you learned.
Yes. Okay. It's actually really interesting, only because I was not into astrology. You know, sometimes you meet people who are like, oh my God, I'm so into astrology. I actually wasn't. I did not have any awareness that astrology was anything worth investing time or energy into.
Okay.
However, someone gave me an astrology reading, and the gift certificate was about to expire, and this was like, oh gosh, this is like 25 years ago.
Wow.
Or longer, and I went into, it was maybe 28 years ago, almost 30, and the astrologer looked at my chart, talked about my personality, but at that time, I was doing a lot of public-facing things. Like I had shows in Japan, television shows in Japan and Hawaii, so I was doing all these different media things. And so I felt that when he was describing me, he was just describing me perhaps from something that he read in the newspaper on midweek or something. Well, what was interesting was at that time he told me that on April 1st of the year 2000, now keep in mind this is 1997, April 1st, that's 3 years in the future, he said that I would go through a career change. And so I thought to myself, well, that makes sense. Right now I'm doing in front of the camera work, probably going behind the camera. That would make sense. But on April 1st of the year 2000, I walked into Japan TV News, that was my employer at the time, and they told me that they sold the they sold the company, but they didn't purchase my newscast, and I could go to unemployment. Now, I had forgotten what the astrologer told me. I completely forgot. I got this reading. He told it to me, and I wrote it in my I'm dating myself here, but little Palm Pilot, like back then, right? They had like this digital calendar.
I do remember seeing those. Yeah.
And so when I was filling out the forms at unemployment, I opened up to see how long I had worked there. And the pop-up showed up that, this guy had told me years ago that my life was going to like go through a change, and it happened to the day. And so it was almost like I guess I was really upset because I was losing my job. I didn't know what I was going to do. It gave me hope. And then that moment was just like, I need to learn how to do this. And so I delved deep into the science and the discipline of astrology. And I just decided I wanted to be an astrologer and I wanted to help people understand their life cycles. And so that's what happened.
Wow, that's profound. That literally. So I mean, I think like there's a lot of people now that are discovering about astrology,
Yeah.
but I guess like back in like maybe the 90s.
Oh, yeah, forget it.
It was more foreign. Yeah.
It was, and people thought I was weird. They thought I was some sort of like, I lost it somehow. And so it was a little bit hard to have be an astrologer at that time. Yes.
So what were the resources back then? Because like I said, like there's a lot of things now that
Yeah.
people can look into, but like I'm guessing back in like 2000, there's just nothing.
Yeah, there was nothing in terms of, we weren't really, internet was around, but it wasn't like that big of a deal, right? So it was really bookstores. So I went down, I remember actually going to Barnes & Noble and purchasing about $400 of books. And then back then, they used to have astrology conventions where you could buy the cassette tapes of all of the researchers and all of the lectures. So I would order those, and I just really consumed myself with learning, and then found different teachers throughout that time, traveled, learned, did a lot of in-depth learning. But you learn from doing people. So actually reading for people is where you start to really hone your craft.
Huh.
Yeah.
How has research changed from back then to now? Is it pretty consistent, or
Research in terms of what?
like I guess like with like astrology, like discovering more about charts and stuff like that?
Oh, you know what? It's an ancient discipline. It's been around for thousands of years. So the way I like to explain it, and a lot of people are like, it's a hoax, like it's just for entertainment, like how could this really be? The way I think about it is it's like a language that I translate. So it's like I speak Chinese, I speak Japanese, I sometimes translate between the two or three languages. So all I'm doing is looking at patterns in the sky, and every pattern means the same thing. So I translate it to how it works in your life. So it's not fortune telling. I'm not predicting anything other than natural rhythm, natural life cycles. Like when you had the flood, when you had to like reset your studio here, that kind of stuff shows up. Details doesn't show up. I don't get to tell, I don't tell you, oh my gosh, you're going to have a flood. I'll just say like there's some disruption to work. And then later you'll tell me, oh, this is what happened. So we never know the details, but I definitely know timing and themes of what's going to come up. Yeah.
So when was your first like you did like your first like astrology like private
Like
service?
reading. So what you do is you start, you're just interested, and then all your friends that are kind of remotely interested give you their birth time. And then you start to like calculate and learn from it. And then I remember the very first reading I did was probably a professional reading I did was like maybe about 8 months after I started learning, and I charged $30, and it took me 8 hours to prepare. Yeah, it was a lot of tedious work, but now I've learned the language, so it's a lot easier for me to just look at a chart and understand what's going on.
Huh,
Yeah.
interesting.
What questions do you have? What are you?
I'm curious for mine because like I have a friend who a coworker. She studies this. She's like she says she's a novice, but then like
She's into it little.
She
Yeah.
is into it, right? So she got me involved, I guess. Like so I was just curious. I looked up mine, right? So I'm a Libra, right? That's my sun.
Right.
It's just kind of weird. People are gonna think like, wow, Gavin actually knows this stuff. And then rising, I'm a Capricorn, and then moon, I'm a Pisces.
Okay, so just with that alone, so I'll just say that when you look into the newspaper, you're seeing 12 signs, and that could relate to 500 million people, given that there's probably 6 billion people on the planet. But when you start to come down to what's my sun, what's my moon, what's my rising, so those people that don't know what that is, at the moment of your birth, at the longitude and latitude of your birth, if we were to take a picture of the sky, we would look at a pattern, and we're looking at where's the sun when you're born, where's the moon, and when you mentioned the rising sign, that is like if you were to look out on the eastern horizon at the moment you were born, what sign is out there in the galaxy? So anyway, those three things actually tell me a lot about you, but if I saw your chart, I'd know everything about you. Those three things tell me that, number one, if we just talk about this aspect of yourself, the Capricorn, well, let's start with Libra. So Libra is your sign. So Libra, it's the sign of, I'll use it, that fair exchange. It's that sign of, I mean, I would imagine, given those three signs that you have, that you're not very confrontational. But Libra is really like that liking to share, liking to converse. It's a very social sign, and it's just a really peaceful sign. It actually likes peace. And so that's just the Libra side. Then your Capricorn that you mentioned, that Capricorn side of you is that aspect of showing up well, like wanting to reach your goals and do it good. So this is like that I want to be successful at what I do. So it does have a little business mindedness to it. And then the Pisces aspect is that's kind of where you show, I guess I'll use the word, your sensitivity, your compassion, your caring nature. So all of that together, I know that you actually have Earth, which is your grounded, that's Capricorn. You have air, which is Libra, which is the ability to kind of converse, think of anything that happens through air, communication. And then the Pisces aspect is water. So that's your sensitivity, your feeling. Yeah. Do you relate to those three?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. These are just three facets, but imagine a human being has multiple facets. So in a chart, we're able to see all the layers of everything about the potential for the person, the upside, the downside, where they might struggle. So imagine if I had your chart, we would see positions, right, of where planets are. And if a planet is here and here and it's in a certain kind of degree, then I know that you have inner tension around that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I noticed like for charts too, there's like a bunch of like lines, there's like connections. I'm not really sure about what that means.
And it's really, it's funny because it looks complicated, but the basics of it are so simple. Just right now, if we took a picture of the sky and then with the positions, this is astronomy, right? You can find this in any astronomy book. It's just science of where the planets are. And then when you take that picture, it falls into like a wheel, right? Most people have seen that horoscope, that wheel. And then all the houses just represent areas of focus. So if your sun is in the first house, your focus is more on achieving. If your sun is in the second house, it's a different focus. So we just start to see it. And it's a story. Every chart is a story about that individual, what their potential is, and how they play out their life. So we can go backward, forward in your life, and we can see cycles and themes. And I've done this for, gosh, over 10,000 people. So I've just come to understand that there is a rhythm and a purpose to our life. And if you go through some really big challenge, like you were sharing earlier that you had gone through like your leg, you broke your leg.
Right.
So something like that, we would not know that you were going to break your leg, but I knew that there was going to be some disruption in your life. And we could see when it was going to start and end.
Interesting. Based on the
chart. And I'll just say the computers now, I just plug in your birthday, hit a button, and boom, there's your chart. I can translate your chart, but I push another button and it's all calculated mathematically. So I'm just reading numbers. Really, that's all it is, just reading numbers about your life. And I've learned how to translate that.
I do have my chart. I probably could show you.
Oh, bring it out. Yeah.
You want me to bring it out now?
Want it? Yeah, if you want.
Oh gosh, I can't wait. This might take a little bit. I guess in the meantime, can you talk about? So you have done presentations for people at McDonald's. Gap.
Yeah. So that one is completely different. So the astrology is the new show that we're doing called Following Journeys, right?
I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. That's okay. So the Following Journeys is astrology, and then we could surely talk about that later because that's a whole different system of calculation.
Actually, I actually want to get to this. So, could you talk about whatever this is on your on your cover?
Yeah. So years ago, basically, I was just going to do a book on the power of positivity. And Jason, who is our creative director for our Following Journeys astrology show, which we'll talk about. Jason Sopaia. I asked him, he's an illustrator as well. He's very talented. And I said, can you help me draw a superhero for this book? And so he started asking me a series of questions saying, isn't there more than one superpower? And long story short, I ended up developing a personality assessment based on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. And that has turned into corporate training on communication, self-growth, all of that. So that's kind of what that is.
Interesting.
Oh, so that was your chart.
And then he made all these.
He made all these things for me. Yep.
Wow.
Very
nice.
Okay. So
well, okay, right now, guys, just for audio listeners, Alice is reading my chart right now.
So I'm looking at a chart that, so this kind of ties in really well with our show, right? So the TV show Following Journeys that is going to drop in October of 21st on YouTube. It is a show where we actually do readings on people, and then whatever I predict, we follow up 6 to 8 to 9 months later to see if what I said actually happened. and in what form. So it kind of gives a proof of concept to this. So the first part of the show, I always go over the person's natal chart. So you had said your sun is in Libra, right? Yeah. So it's in the 9th house. The 9th house is the area of travel of the mind, sharing. This is the teaching house. So this is someone who loves to teach, loves to share. On top of that, you have Mercury right at the top of your chart. So Mercury is the planet of communication. The top of the chart is career. So communicating for your career. So doing what you're doing is absolutely a natural. Sharing wisdom, knowledge with other people, right? Taking it public. Pluto, Venus in your 10th. Yeah. So even, I mean, I would actually ask you, like, do you enjoy, I don't want to take away from your day job. I don't want to take away from your day job, but you actually really excel when you're able to share information with others. You have a super curious energy, so that means that you're really good at asking questions. And then you also have this other thing in your chart that means you like to delve deep. And there is this whole thing about communicating, sharing information, delving deep. If I didn't know you, I would probably say something that you did something with either the written word or the spoken word, and that you would love to share information. That's huge in your chart. And then your moon is in the 2nd house in Pisces. So what that means is the moon's position, just when we took a picture of the sky, it falls in this one pie slice. And the 2nd house is, it's the house of, it's interesting. Like you have a lot of earth energy. So liking to be grounded and liking things to, I would just say that it's hard to, you're quick, but it's hard to rush you, if that makes sense. You're quick with your mind, you're quick with your words, but you have to be deliberate. Like when it's time for you to do something, you need to know what we're doing, how we're going to do it. And once you're in, you're totally in, because you have kind of an all or nothing. Where
blowing my mind right
now. Yeah, and where all this comes up is because your moon is in Pisces, you're open to the non-tangible, the non-physical. So I would say, like, with someone who has their moon in Pisces, you are really, I would say addictions are a thing. Addictions meaning like you can easily get addicted to something.
Get into something.
Yeah, and like get in, not in a bad way, but you can totally get into something.
Like working out or whatever.
Yeah, whatever you are. You do have a bit of an all or nothing energy here.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you really have a nice sharing energy. Yeah, definitely see that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can build it to Kampai Sugai.
And if I gave you archetypes, here, I'll give you an archetype. Archetypes are just like words that sort of describe your theme here. So you have the sage archetype. Do you know what a sage is? Sages are the old wise old men that live in the mountains, and people go to answers for them.
Okay.
Get answers. So people go to you for answers. So you have that ability to know a lot. You're like the jester. The jester entertaining people, juggling multiple projects, multiple things, multiple identities, wearing multiple hats. And the jesters, back in the old day, the jesters, they would be like the advisors to the king, but they would be on the street talking to the people. So you are okay talking to the people, but you have knowledge and wisdom that you can help people with. So you have the jester, you have the sage, you also have the explorer. So the explorer is someone who's willing to land and just look around, and not jump in right away, just explore. So whether you're exploring someone in a conversation or you're exploring like which way to go or what I should do, you definitely have the explorer. You also have the magician. The magician, I always use this phrase, you either amaze people or you confuse people. So people are either amazed at what you do or they're confused by how you get it all done. There's that. And then you also have the ruler, which is someone who likes to be bossy. I don't know, is he bossy? Like, sometimes like wanting things to be a certain way, like having a standard to how you're going to do things. Yeah, so that's who you are in a nutshell.
That's so interesting.
In a nutshell.
That's cool. That was really cool. Thank you.
Yo, it's cool. It's cool because I can do this for anybody in the world, never having met them. As long as I have the birthday, birth time, birth location, we can actually track who they are and how they show up in the world. And then if I had my computer, then I could lay out like your whole life cycle, like your life path. It's kind of cool.
That is really cool. That was really wow. That was kind of interesting. No, I definitely am a lot of those things. I
Yeah.
will say.
You can see it because we all have spectrums to ourselves. We all have people,
Hmm.
different facets of who we are.
I mean, I was ready for even if you had something negative to say. I was like, I was ready for it.
So let's see. If I was going to go negative, negative could be having too many things, not finishing it. Having great ideas and a great start, but not quite reaching the mountaintop, beating yourself up for not doing more. That could be a downside. Another downside could be just excess, like going to excess, like eating too much, drinking too much, working too much, sleeping too much. Like when you do stuff like going to excess, those could be like downsides. Yeah, addiction to like wanting to escape. You have this one thing in your chart that doesn't mind escaping. So whether it's through meditation, whether it's through drinking, whether it's through anything like, watching soap operas, like whatever that is, just like retreating, you need that. Even though you're social, you need retreat time for sure.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, you need downtime.
Huh.
Yeah, and you might do it by tuning out, put it that way.
I accept that. I accept that wholly.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you have something called revenge bedtime procrastination. Do you know what that is?
Oh, what is that?
Revenge bedtime procrastination is when you procrastinate against bedtime because you're revenging against the fact you didn't get enough self time. So you tune out and you scroll, and you know you should go to bed, but you scroll, and so you're procrastinating against bedtime.
This lady knows me. This lady knows me. No, I am like that because like there's sometimes like there's just so many things I do in the day.
Yeah.
Right, but it's more like maybe not scrolling on my phone, but then maybe I'll
Doing
watch
stuff.
a show.
Yeah, watching it's phone or show or just it's the idea that need to decompress before you actually go to sleep because you're so busy in the day.
And sometimes like I'll put it on my calendar too, right? I'll schedule it and I'll go like 11:01 is what I'm gonna watch a show or something.
Totally.
Oh, that's so weird. but thank you. That was really interesting.
So what's interesting about this whole thing is that charts are usually read in private. It's never done publicly. So that's why we wanted to have this show because nobody gets to see inside a private session. And most people think, well, did what they predict happen or not happen? So in one 30-minute show, we will show the reading like I just gave you. And then the second part is I go back into the past and pick out dates that I know there are changes. And the guest is like, oh my God, that's when I moved. That's when I changed. Like, so we can pick out timing. Then I do a future forecast for them. Then we follow up 6 to 8 months later to see if what I predicted actually happened and in what form. So for example, we have a girl like, well, I don't want to give away too much. So, for example, let's say I say there's a career change and you're like, well, I'm an accountant and I do podcasting, like what kind that could be. And you have no idea. And then all of a sudden that energy hits and somebody tells you, let's open a little restaurant down the street. And all of a sudden you're opening a restaurant and people are like, oh my God, don't you have enough to do? But I could call that you are having a business card change. So I can see business card changes. I just don't know what you're going to do. Yeah.
But it's more like a general thing. It's just based on the chart that you're saying.
Yeah, it's actually specific, specific but not detailed.
But not detailed. Right.
It's all about timing. It's all about timing. Think about it. Whenever you've wanted to, you don't want to move, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, the landlord's selling the house. You're forced to move. That stuff shows up. A move will show up. Or you might choose to sell your house and move.
So for the show, right?
Yes.
So you're tracking these people 6 to 8 months in the future. In between those months too, is like the production team like following them?
Yes.
Like,
well, not
them?
quite. So it's not like we're like following their whole life. So it really just is. I deliver my reading, and then we literally wait 8 months or whenever I see that there's activity, and then the team will go and interview them and say what happened, and they'll say, oh my gosh, what Alice said happened, da 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 da. So they tell their story, and so in 30 minutes you get to see the prediction and immediately see if what I said happened or not. Yeah, so it's like a documentary. It's unscripted. It's just like whatever is happening is what we actually film.
And how did you find your guests to come on the show?
That's a great question. I think in the beginning it was a little hard, so it was sort of asking people I know. But now people are asking to be on the show. So, and we have like on our website, we have a questionnaire where you actually have to fill it out, not who you are and what you do, but just basically fill it out and give me your birth time. Because if there's no activity in the upcoming year, we want to we usually pick guests that have some sort of activity so that we can follow up within the year. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's really based on their activity, because sometimes you might have had years where there's not a lot of change, then all of a sudden lots of change. So we're just looking for people that I can see some activity coming up within a year.
Did you ever have someone that maybe like they see you, let's say today, and then maybe like let's say like 5 years down the line they come back to you again? You ever have like
Oh, I have
reoccurring,
actually, I have regular clients that I've been seeing every year for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So usually what I do is I do a forecast of a year. And so every year people come up and get their future forecast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool. And then you probably get a lot of referrals too. What would you say is probably like your one referral that you're like, oh wow, that was interesting? Like,
man, I have had so much, and now my practice is so full. Like I don't really take new people unless you know. But it's everyone's life is different and unique, but every reading is accurate. It's not me. People go, how accurate are you? And it's not me. I am just looking. If you give me your right birth time, if your birth time is right, then I'm just telling you what I see. And then the timing, your life takes care of itself. So I'm really just translating.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, that's great that like it's like a way of giving back to the community too, right?
Yeah.
Because you're helping others to really figure out themselves as well.
Yeah,
right?
our goal is really, I think, for the show to give people hope and help people understand that you're here for a reason and you are the way you are, and there's upsides to you and downsides, but life sometimes can get scary for people, right? When you don't know what's going to happen. People are afraid of the future. And so what I think it does is help give people a sense. So the way I like to talk about it, because it's sort of misrepresented, really. People think of it as something it's not. So when you're doing it professionally or you're going down to the individual, we can see the lineup of your life. And think about this. Let's say there's no internet, there's no guidebooks, and you'd never been to Russia before. You've never been there. So tomorrow you're going to Russia, and you're a little nervous. You don't know what's over there. And then you meet me, and I'm like, Gavin, I used to live there. Let me tell you, this is the weather, this is the people, this is the airport, this is how you get around. So I give you all this information in an hour. You feel, oh, okay, you feel better. You have a context of Russia. So when you go there, you feel like it's more familiar. So I do that with the future. And that's what's so cool about an astrology future sort of forecast, is that you get a sense of where you're going. Like if you said, I want to quit my job, I don't know when, I can tell you when you would likely really be ready for that. So now you're not wondering about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy because I'm actually going to Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's and then like, you know, the thing is, it's like, oh, why Australia, right? And I was just curious. You know what I mean? Like, I guess when you were talking, I was like, huh, that makes me think about my thought process of like, okay, yeah, it really aligns with like, okay, I'm very deliberate about like where I'm gonna go and then the people I'm gonna meet. But I'm also curious, so I'm not like concrete on like everything.
Yes, yes.
I'm like, I have like a general plan, like a skeleton plan of like, I'm going here, and then going here. But then everything else like
goes with the flow.
Goes with the flow.
Yeah.
Right?
So your Capricorn is like, okay, this is how I'm going to set it up. And then Pisces, that moon, which is water, which is, okay, once I feel secure about the big rocks, then I'm fine to just navigate. But you know how some people are just like, I'm just going to go take a suitcase and figure it out. That's not you.
That's my sister. And she's also a Libra too.
Yeah, but then she would have other things in her chart, right? That would show otherwise.
That is so interesting. Huh. Because I mean, when you were saying that, I'm like, wow, I really am like that.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely like an all-in person. I definitely am. I can clearly see that.
Yeah. Some people would say you're stubborn, but you also go with the flow.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, because you have fixed energy, which is like digging your heels in, but then you also have like, but you know what, I can flow, right? So there's that.
Yeah, I think like for myself, I'm a very like, this is kind of going into like a little bit of me here, but like I would say I'm very like, oh yeah, I have like certain fundamentals that I stick with, but I'm very curious about like other things,
And
like
that's
just learning
the
more.
Mercury at the top of your chart. That's curiosity. So as soon as so every person has signatures in their chart. So if I saw another chart with someone who had the Mercury, they would also be curious, but about different things, right? Because you're curious about things you're interested in. They're curious about those things, but they would be questioning people. Yeah. So there's signatures. Everyone has their signatures in charts that we can find.
Huh.
Yeah, like if certain planets are together in the sky when you're born, it creates a little signature that is unique to you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Okay, moving on. Actually, I actually want to talk about master your superpower
Okay,
before I
yes.
before I forget.
Yes.
So how did you create this assessment, this psychometric assessment?
So I actually got it psychometric validated, but so you've heard of the 5 elements, right?
Right.
Like so in Chinese, so in astrology, we work with 4 elements. It's Western. In Chinese philosophy, that they call it traditional Chinese medicine, they use 5 elements. So just think water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. So these are the 5. Okay. So each of these 5 elements, what I did was they all have personality traits. So what I did was I personified them into superheroes, and then you take the assessment, and it basically finds your top 2 elements, and then that becomes your superhero archetype.
Right.
So that's just what it is. And then I created the questions and created the whole system and played it out, and I just created it, and then it just started. I just did it for fun, like I was just going to do it for fun. I wrote a book on it, and then people started finding it valuable in communication, understanding who you are. So in other words, like if you took the assessment, you would score high on 2 of the highest elements, and then that would define your personality. And I found that it matches the astrology chart very interestingly.
Oh, interesting. So for the assessment, how long did it take you to like figure out like this is how like I want to formulate it? And then
Yeah, it wasn't long. I was just like in the process of writing a book. I just had this idea, and so I just thought, okay, water personality. So I'm a primary water. So water. Think about water. Water goes with the flow. It's transparent. It changes states from ice cold to steamy hot. Right. So you think about water. So a water person is like that. They go with the flow. They're very transparent. They need a container. Like water needs a container. So water people are more insecure. They need to feel secure, right? So I just ask questions like that. Do you like this? Do you like to be alone? Da, da, da. I asked the questions, and then I created a scoring sheet around it, and it just eventually ended up into an assessment that we were able to
distribute and give out.
It was in the book, and then we made it online, and now it's kind of a sophisticated thing now. Yeah.
So how did you get it distributed, like your books in general?
I'm so fortunate. I think just I started with our own community, and we have it on Amazon, and people find it, and certain bookstores would carry it. So yeah, it's just. It just kind of it has a life of its own, I guess, in some ways. Yeah.
And then how did it reach bigger companies like McDonald's and
so
going back to what I was saying?
So McDonald's. So what you heard? So this assessment is being used by McDonald's Global with their leadership team, and again, it was a series of. Do you know the word synchronicities? Like I always use the word synchronicities, like. You've had those moments where, like, you think of a song, it comes on the radio. Think about something. So, like, synchronicities is sort of when things start aligning in your life and they come together, good or bad, right? Synchronicities come together. So somebody told somebody, and McDonald's called, and they said they heard about my superpower assessment. Tell me more. And it was actually for the top level of McDonald's, and so I actually did it for like this, the C-suite. And then from there, these teams wanted it for them, and then global technology wanted it for them, and customer experience wanted it for them. And next month, I'm doing global business services. So there's all these divisions. It's a huge, huge, huge organization. So I go to Chicago, and they have a global headquarters there.
How intimidating was that to do that?
It was a culture shock. For sure. But I've lived in so many different cultures that I'm very adaptable. Think my primary element is water. So you give me a container, I fill it. So I knew this had to be high level. It had to be whatever it needed to be. So I kind of filled it. It was a little intimidating, of course, but it was so much fun because like McDonald's McDonald's, like
Yeah.
Happy Meal, right? I mean, they have this whole wall at the headquarters that has every single Happy Meal toy that
Really?
was ever created along this whole wall. So
Oh.
it was just like a museum. It was really cool. And I'm a vegetarian, which is really even funnier,
Oh,
right?
that's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Like you got to
That
go in
it's
front of
actually
the
really
board.
amazing because
Yeah.
I thought it was for some low level group. When I found out it was a high level group, I actually pulled out because I was like, that's too much because I
Oh.
don't understand the high level corporate language that's used. But they just said they'd never seen a system like this and they would help me get whatever outcome. So they were really kind, worked with me every week to up level my system, get it to be the way that they wanted
Interesting.
to use. And yeah, so it's been a great experience. And then it's different people heard about it. And it's just word of mouth. Yeah.
So what organizations are like looking into it now?
So a lot. So locally, we use a whole lot of organizations. Obviously, use that. But just like yesterday, I got a call from Walmart. So Walmart heard about it from McDonald's, and so we're going to do something for them in October. Gap also heard about it. In fact, somebody from Gap told McDonald's, and then Gap asked me to come back and do something for their global marketing team. So I
Wow.
got to go to San Francisco and do that. So yeah,
Cool.
it's just spreading, but my goal is really to have it as another form of personality assessment because there's a lot out there. But what's different about ours is it's holistic. Have you heard recently like holistic things are more popular?
Yeah.
People want more holistic, right? Which is the whole. So this system actually it identifies the whole of who you are and you change and and how you work in the whole of a team. So it's very dynamic. Whereas most personality assessments, they pick you apart. You're aggressive or you're passive or you're organized, you're disorganized. So they pick you into pieces. So it's called reductionistic. So mine is like the only holistic assessment on the market right now.
Interesting.
And so in teams now, we're more holistic, right? We understand there's multiple genders, there's multiple ways we work, there's different races, there's more inclusivity. So it's a very inclusive assessment because it doesn't tell you right or wrong or good and bad. This is who you are. This is who you are. How do you work together? How do I communicate with you if you're different than me? Instead of like, oh, force is good or aggressive is good or organized. Like it's not pieces. It's like this assessment gives you the whole of you, just like astrology shows the whole of who you are. The assessment does a pretty good job in understanding the whole of the pieces of you and how they work together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
You can go to masteryoursuperpowers.com and take it. You just buy the assessment and you take it.
Oh, okay.
And you get a manual of like everything about who you are in a manual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to, yeah, I'm very curious. I'm actually very curious about mine too. So going forward, right? With what you have coming out, like your new show
Yes.
and everything. What's next for you after that?
Right now-
What do you want to accomplish?
So I think the first two things is both Master Your Superpowers and Following Journeys have the potential to really change people's lives. So Master Your Superpowers in the corporate world, helping people get along better at work and not have so much drama and communicate better. And then Following Journeys just for humanity. To have a new understanding of what astrology is, because I've just found that most people are like, but that's because they don't know about it. If you don't know it, you don't know it. But I know it, and I know that with my partners in Following Journeys, that our belief is that this could be something that really helps people understand it better, because you will not find any show on the internet that shows someone getting an astrological reading and showing proof of it. Nowhere. So this will be like a very new thing. So what we hope in the future is eventually getting it on a streaming platform like Netflix or HBO Max or something. Yeah, so that's where we want to take Following Journeys.
You ever thought about having an understudy for you? Like,
Yeah, I've tried really hard. I've had a lot of mentorship students and we've trained a lot, but it's a language that unless you practice it, you can't get better
can't,
at it. So if you've
right.
ever gone to, like when I first went to Japan, I didn't speak Japanese, but you had to keep practicing it and then you become fluent. It's hard. It's easy, but you get better by doing it. And I think that a lot of the students that I had they had full-time jobs. Like I had no job, so I was forced to make this my career. Whereas sometimes when you have a full-time job, it's just really hard and it becomes more of a hobby.
Yeah. Are you still fluent in Japanese too?
Kind of. I don't use it as much, but yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, good enough. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten international clients as well?
You know, I'm not fluent in Japanese in the language of astrology. So
Mm.
when Japanese people come, they would hire a
Oh, I never thought about
translator.
that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I never learned Japanese using astrology because I learned astrology after I came back from
Yeah,
Japan
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
learned it in English. So I wouldn't be as effective.
Does it translate? Does it translate well? I guess in.
It does. I mean, every language has its own thing, like Japanese. So put it this way, in English, we can use the words "I miss you," and you know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
Japanese, they don't have the word "I miss you," but in
Mm-hmm.
Chinese, they have "我想你," like "I miss you." They have it because in their
Mm.
culture, they actually say "I miss you," but Japanese doesn't have that. So you have to think of a different way, and the way you say "I miss you" is, "Oh, you're not here, and so I feel lonely without you." So you have to use a big sentence to use it. So some things we have to use more sentences
Mm.
to explain the concept.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I never thought about that. Yeah, because yeah, you would need. I guess the translator. They would bring a translator
Yeah, or
too.
we would hire someone to come in to
Oh,
do the session.
interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
How big is your team?
I
Just
have.
curious.
Oh yeah. So with our following journeys team,
Mm-hmm.
we have our three partners, and we have obviously our team. We've pulled in, and these are all contractors, right? PR agency, social media agency, YouTube
Mm-hmm.
agency. We've got like production agency that cuts and does stuff. We have the production company that actually
Mm-hmm.
creates it, Kinetic Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we film, I think we have a team of like 8 people, including makeup artists. So it's a big production that we're running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's Following Journeys. But Happiness You has its own team, Master Superpowers. It's like everything is everyone has pieces of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you guys present it to a production company to like help make it happen?
Oh, so the Following Journeys.
Yeah, for
So
Following
what
Journeys.
happened was it really started with. My friend and also very much interested in all of these things, my kosasa, she came to me and said, Alice, I want to do something with you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what do you want to do? She was like, I want to do a TV show. And I'm like, TV show? Like, I'm so busy. Like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, astrology. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea to do a show because it's a lot of time and energy and resources, right, to do it. So that's when I called my friend Jason Suapaia and I said, hey, come talk to my friend Mai and just maybe kind of talk her out of doing this because it's a lot of time and energy. But after the 2-hour meeting, we had a show. We decided that we wanted to do a show to give some hope and inspiration to people. And so that's how it started. So we spent a whole year working on the brand, working on the concept, working on the business plan. We even have a 20-year plan for this whole thing. So we really
Wow.
did the business aspect of it, got it branded, and then
Cool.
pulled in Kinetic, and then Jason and Ryan, who was our is our director, and we all just sort of figured out how this show would show up best. But Kinetic Productions did everything.
Wow.
Brought the whole team in and all the editing and the follow up. It's a lot. It's just a
Yeah.
lot. So it's a really high level show. We want to show up really in the best way we can to give as much hope and inspiration as we can to people.
Yeah. And how long did like filming take for like the first season?
Yeah, so the first season, so the way that we did it, we would have 4 guests on one day, and I would read
Oh.
4 people's charts, right?
Back to back.
Back to back. So that was a full day of production. And then we wait for them to follow up. Then meanwhile, we film another 4 guests, right? And then
Uh-huh.
we wait
And
for
you
them to
tracked it,
follow up.
right.
And so it's just this ongoing way of making that show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So some we
amazing.
have waiting for things to happen. So then we can go film. So it's just this whole like loop. And then as the shows are made, just getting all the social media ready. Yes.
What would you say is the common misconceptions now do you have of like astrology
Yeah.
from people?
I think people just think it's like it's like this out there thing, or it's just sort of like for like metaphysical people, or they think that astrology. I think nobody understands it. They think it's just some general prediction stuff. I think people are really surprised when they get a reading. You could come to me and I wouldn't have ever seen you or know anything about you, and I'm just looking at your chart. I think people are surprised because they feel like I can know them better than maybe their spouse knows them, because I can understand where they're coming from, and then to be able to give a sense of timing. People don't realize how exact it is. It's an exact science that is translated into a storyline for a person's life. Yeah, it's really it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I never get tired of doing astrology. Started and ended many things, but astrology is something that I'll keep forever.
Oh, awesome. And what would you want to like see I guess in the field of astrology, what would you want to see like
That's a good
expanded?
question. Yeah, I think what I would like to see is that it just becomes another way to source information about yourself, clean and simple. There's no magic to it. There's no like, woo, it's like this crazy thing. It's really just like, just understanding the pattern in your life. Like you've probably gone through times where things were really, really like difficult, you know, like what's going on? And if I would have come to you and said, you know what, I see it. It was meant to happen. There's something that good will come from this. Look what happened to you. Something was born from the crises, right? So we understand that bad things are not bad per se. They're actually turning points. They're like they're a little bit like catalysts for something else. So sometimes things have to happen to you in order for you to get onto the path you need to go. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I know that's really
It's
fascinating.
pretty profound.
Yeah.
What's profound to me, I'll tell you, what's profound is that we can actually track people's lives through the stars. So it starts you to think, wow, is there a relationship between, you know, we already know the moon and the tides have a relationship, right? The moon affects the tides. So all the other planets actually affect us. And now we have a language that I can translate to share with you what's going on. It gives you so much peace of mind, just kind of knowing like, oh, everything's going to be okay. That's all I think that's all anybody wants to know. Am I going to be okay? Is everything going to be okay? Because you're scared. Am I going to lose my job? All these people are getting laid off. Am I going to lose my job? Or it's like, I've lost my job. Like, oh my God, is there any hope for me to get job? I'm financially stressed. What's going to happen? So people want to know kind of like, are they going to be okay? And I think that's what astrology can do. Let you understand that you're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
Interesting. Do other galaxies or like let's say like other planets do they play a part in like someone's chart too, or like a black hole?
What I
maybe?
look at, yeah, so there's like black holes. So you got to remember, we are one of billions of galaxies, right?
Right.
So our sun, we revolve around the sun, right? So the Earth goes around the sun, right? And all the planets we're in this sort of gravitational field. That's what we read from the point of Earth when we look to the sky. That is what impacts us. So our sun and other galaxies actually revolve around another sun. So it's huge.
Yeah.
So there's probably other people out there doing other things in different galaxies that we don't even know or see or can even trace. But as far as us humans on Earth, we're geocentric. So heliocentric is the sun. Geocentric, you know, we're on Earth. So everything to us is, we're on Earth. So I want to know how things apply to me. So we look to the sky. Astrologers, people, ancients look to the sky for all the answers. And so now we can track it.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess summing things up, I guess what would you want people to get out of like, I guess everything that you do?
Yeah, I think it's just that you have more power over your life than you think. And any information you get is simply power, right? And so I think astrology gives you a sense of power, understanding that this is where you are. Even Master Superheroes, understanding that you are this way, even though your boss might want you to be more that way, you're this way, and you contribute in a certain way that's also valuable. So I think for me, it's just giving people hope. And I keep saying it, hope and inspiration, because that's what we need. Like, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, right? If you look on the news, if you look on stuff, it's like we just want to know, are we going to be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how you started as well, right?
Yeah.
From hope and
You're
inspiration.
so right.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, without television, like everything I did, I mean, everything, my sponsors, everything. So I had nothing and I had no idea what I was going to do. And then once I realized, like, oh, holy cow, somebody predicted this 3 years ago that I was going to lose my job. How do you do that? I was so curious. And then when I realized, oh my gosh, it is literally just learning a language. And I love languages. I just learned it, practiced it. And now I really want people to get, I don't know, get a real picture of what it is. And so I think this show has that opportunity, right, to let people just peek inside a private reading. It's a real reading. So you can see reading after reading and how it turns out. And maybe for you too, you will be fine, right? You're going through something challenging. You will get through it. We can't stay in something longer than we want to.
Well, Alice, thank you for joining me on the show, and I really appreciate it. Real quick, could you tell people how they can get a hold of you, like what website they can hit up?
So let me just start by saying our biggest thing right now is that whole Following Journey show. So we would love people to just go to YouTube and we are it's at Following Journeys with an S.
Cool.
And then you start to subscribe. So once you subscribe, when the shows drop, you'll be notified. So October 21st, 4 episodes will drop, and then we'll have episodes drop after that.
Let's go.
Yeah. So follow us, all the social channels at Following Journeys, like every social channel, just start following us. But YouTube, most of all, to watch that. And then master your superpowers. If you want to just know like a really quick like recap, it takes 5 minutes to take the assessment. It's $20 on the site. It's masteryoursuperpowers with an S.com.
Okay.
Followingjourneys.com. And that's our website. Sign up. We have like, just sign up. If you want to be a guest, apply to be a guest on the you could come to our website and apply.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
And then for you, you have your regular website as well.
Yeah. So Happiness U is our umbrella company.
Okay.
So Happiness U, like university. So we basically want to teach people how to be happy. So that's your happiness, the letter U.com.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just type in my name and you'll find me somewhere.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Except that my name has no Y. It's ALICEINOUE. No Y. Yeah.
Happiness U.
Yeah.
Anyways, Alice, thank you again for joining us. And as we always do a Kampai at the very end.
We do.
So we do a we do a
Kampai
cheers.
not with real.
We have shot glasses, but
Okay,
we have our hydro flask today, and then I have all the companies that I support.
And I have our intuitive luminary. That's my archetype.
Cool.
Okay.
And then Alice, this is to you, to your future, to your show. I think it's gonna be very successful, and you have a great team behind you, and you have great supporters. And thank you for just providing hope and inspiration to others.
Thank you so much. It was so good to meet you. Kampai.
Kampai.